Abel bought some firstings of his flock, including their fat, while Jehovah looked with favor on Abel and on his offering, but he did not look with any favor on Cain and on his offering.
See, it said that it was no favor on Cain and his offering. So it was the person was mostly the problem right there.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It wasn't what they were offering up at all.
Yeah, it wasn't the offering, because it says, when Jehovah did not look on favor with Cain, so Cain grew hot with anger and was dejected.
Yeah. Jehovah already knew what had Cain was.
And 2 scriptures later, he killed his brother.
Yeah, I know.
Jehovah warned him, you need to change your attitude, and instead he said, nope, I'll just kill my brother.
Jehovah knew all about him.
Yeah, he sure does.
Yeah.
Well,
It wasn't an offering at all. Okay. I got that all straight out.
Hey, Mom. Now, why would Cain or Abel have known that they were offering a sacrifice to Jehovah? Though, why did they even know that? Why did they even know to do that?
They didn't.
Well, think about it. Why were they offering a sacrifice at all?
I know, but I don't know why.
How do you suppose they found out about Jehovah?
through Daddy. Not Mama, but Daddy.
Well, Eve, I guess, told her children about it, don't you think?
And remember, what was posted outside the Garden of Eden there?
Oh, yeah.
What else was there?
With all those angels there.
With the sword that went round and round?
With that flaming sword thing.
So them
They
kids
had-
would have said what?
They had to have known something.
Yeah, they would have said, what in the world's that over there, right?
Yeah. And I know Eve told her children about what she had done.
Well, one of them did.
And me and Ronnie think it was Adam.
Or both of them. I mean,
To cause that, you know.
why would you think it was Adam instead of...
Well, because Eve is the one that broke,
So they knew
broke it to begin with
parents
the
had
fruit.
done.
And I think maybe Eve had more of a
They knew what their parents had
revolutionary
done, huh?
type attitude, where Adam was just following his wife.
Yeah, they
you know.
already
The Bible
knew.
says, though...
I know me and Ronnie were just bouncing around.
I mean, it said that she was thoroughly
They
deceived.
knew.
Right, thoroughly deceived.
They knew
And then
that
he just
their
followed
father
suit
and
just to-
mother
But
spend his time
thoroughly
with
her.
deceived does
That
not mean you're
garden.
I know.
rebellious against it. She
They already
she was
knew that
confused
because
according to
that
the
thing
Bible.
was
Yeah.
She
Remember-
was deceived.
You remember what her
long,
comment
long
was
time.
when she was going to give birth?
Yeah.
It
She
wasn't
said-
just put up there one day
what'd she
and
say?
gone. It was there for a long
I know she thought she
time.
was going to have the promised seed.
Says perhaps it'll be the promised seed.
But people
Yeah,
would
so that
know
shows how-
about what happened.
Her thinking still was not right.
Right.
But she thought Jehovah would bless her
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was
with
right.
that.
We just thought it might be more Adam than Eve. That's what me and Ronnie were just bad.
That's according to 1 Henry
Yeah,
1:1.
no, first from Henry and Ronnie one.
1 Henry Ronnie. That was 1 Henry, the apostle Ronnie was quoted as saying. So, Mom, which is more important? Sacrifice or obedience?
It's what the person, what he is. What he, the awful. It's what the person is. Joe don't need anything anyway. See, he just wants for a person to worship him and love him. That's all.
So, what do you suppose is going to happen in the new system when Abel's brought back to life
Ain't that the truth?
and
He
Cain?
will be.
And what about Cain?
I guess Cain won't be.
Why not?
We don't know. He might be.
Committed
We
a
don't
sin,
know
but he
that.
paid for it with death.
I hadn't thought about that, Henry.
Hadn't either.
You know that?
Well, he was marked too, not for anybody to put any
That's
harm
right.
on him
We
either.
don't know that.
And he was marked for nobody to kill him.
Wouldn't that be something? My goodness me. I never had thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Abel would be all about Cain, but
The wages of sin
sure
is
he
death.
would be because no Satan hadn't, Jesus' day hadn't even come yet or nothing. Yep, that's about the way it'll be. Even about that old Jezebel and all them. They probably will be. We'll just see. But first, oh my goodness.
It's gonna be an awful lot of people got to come back and make some big changes.
Yeah, you could just wonder about those kind of things. But most likely, they will be back because
They'll have to learn all about Jesus, won't they, Mom?
that's right.
They knew Jehovah.
I think so.
They knew the name
Yeah.
Jehovah. Jezebel killed Jehovah's prophets.
Mm-hmm.
I guess things we never thought of before. For heaven's sake, I never really ever thought about that. But that's true.
And then somebody hands them a tablet to look up the Bible like what you did. The only tablet he ever knew was a stone or something.
It better be an indestructible one because they're gonna go, "Ooh, what is that?"
What about the Indians from the Americas?
Yeah, how about them? I know.
Did you buy? Oh, never mind. Some bags I haven't emptied yet, and thought maybe you didn't.
Look at that.
Oh,
It
Magpie,
does-
I
this
gave
thing
you
is
the
painted.
toy, sweetheart. Go play with
She's
it.
painted his.
Hey, Mom.
Huh?
When your grandma and grandpa come back in the resurrection, what kind of things are they going to have to learn all over again?
Yeah. My grandma and grandpa.
Now, your grandfather died in the early 30s, right?
Little girl.
My grandfather died in 1929.
1929. So were they still celebrating Christmas back then?
Oh, they often did. People, and even the ones in the governing body. They didn't know any better. No.
They're gonna have to learn better.
So who's going to tell your grandpa you can't celebrate Christmas anymore? You going to tell him?
Who's going to tell him? Be a lot of changes, won't it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, gracious. Now they celebrated things there in the governing body. They didn't know better, but they found out.
Did y'all ever celebrate those holidays? Did y'all celebrate birthdays and Christmas and all, Mom?
Birthdays, no.
No?
Never did celebrate birthdays, but at first, when my father came back from the war, maybe before the first year that he came back,
Came back
I
from the
think
war.
that he, because that Daisy had some of that stuff in the closet there, and I was probably about 2 years old, and I remember her taking that stuff out, and she said she was going to put them on a tree, and I said, "What kind of tree?" And she says, "We're going to cut down one down in the forest and go bring it in." And she said she was the one who was going to put the stuff on that tree. And then it wasn't long before I heard Aunt Daisy and my grandmother fussing. And I went in to see what were they fussing about. And my grandmother was fussing about that tree.
Thought she
And
said
she was
cousin.
not going to have any more trees in the house. And they said, "Well, yeah, we got to have it's Christmas, got to have the tree." And my grandma, "No, Daisy, you cannot put no Christmas tree in this house no more." Now I remember hearing my grandmother telling Aunt Daisy that.
Whose house was it?
The house was built by Aunt Daisy. Had the house built, but it belonged to all of us.
So your grandmother lived there?
Was my grandmother. My grandfather was the one who had the land that gave them that to play.
So your grandmother, your aunt, and your mom all lived in the same house? That's too many women in one house, isn't it?
Well, they got in a little argument sometime out here.
I remember.
Especially Aunt Daisy, though.
I remember when he came down
She was
here.
gonna have her way.
Her grandma was still alive. There was
My
grandma.
grandmother,
There was
she
Aunt
threw all
Daisy.
that stuff out in the trash.
Grandma, and grandpa.
Who did?
My grandmother, she did all of Aunt Daisy's stuff, but she had piled in that little trunk thing where she had. She took it out and put it in the trash pile. I remember seeing it. She had all kinds of decorations on her tree. Yes, she did. But she wasn't successful at doing what she wanted. So,
Guess I'm not gonna be going outside anytime soon,
Uh-uh.
huh? Is that what we're doing?
just like my father told my mother when he found out that she was taking us to church, taking me and Alice, she'd dress us up and sneak us out of the house to go to that church. And my father found out. And I remember when he met her up on the road before we got to the home. And he said, well, I don't know, where have you been? He asked her. And she wouldn't say nothing. She just stood there. But I says, Daddy, we went to church. Me.
Threw her under the bus.
And that's when they got into this terrible argument, my father and my mother. And he told my mother that what churches were, where there were falsehoods and stuff, and she could not take his children. That's what he said. You're not going to take my children to no church, Winona, as he told her.
What?
And she says, yes, Willie, I won't take them to church anymore. And she didn't.
Where was Uncle David?
Huh?
What about Uncle David?
Uncle David was he was 2 years older than me. No, she didn't take David. She just took me and Alice. Dressed us up in the pretty clothes, took us down there to church that morning. But I was the one told Daddy where we'd been, but she wouldn't.
So you didn't go anymore after that?
No, it was the last and only time she ever took us.
But what about Grandma? Did she keep going?
Huh?
Did Grandma keep going?
Grandma, no. She never did go to church anymore either. No. She started listening to what we were learning. And she would listen, and finally she wanted to be a witness also. She gave up her church and everything. Gave up all of her people and everything for the truth. She did.
So who was in the congregation back then?
Yeah, well, it was my grandmother, my grandfather, Aunt Maggie and Uncle Frank, and Brother Kraut, and a couple of pioneers that were staying over at Aunt Maggie's house. A couple of pioneers, and what was that brother's name? He got sick. He died. I forget what his name was now.
Was it Brother Brown?
No.
Brother Shull?
No, you never heard of him. He died before your time.
Yeah, that's before my time.
Got real sick. Pneumonia somehow. No, did he have it? Yeah. I'll think of his name in a little bit.
Where did Brother
I got
Kraut?
a picture of him, I'll show you.
Where was Brother Kraut living?
Brother Kraut, he was married and he had, see, Ruth was born. That was his first child. And Catherine was a baby at that time. She didn't go out, but Ruth and I, we went out in service together with her father and Sister Dell. Sister Dell had just moved to Columbia, and
So that's Judy's grandmother?
she would have a service with us all the time. We were the main ones. Sister Dell, Brother Kraut, not his wife. She didn't go yet because she was pregnant. She had a baby there. Catherine was born, I think, just a baby at that time. So that's in one car. That brother and sister from Columbia, they lived in Columbia. Thomason. They went out and they had a couple of persons in there with her. See, that was her name was Sister Hill, Hill, Hill. She lived in Columbia. She went out in service with them. I think that was about all that went out in service at that time.
How did y'all do service back then, Ma?
Huh?
How did you do service back then?
How did we do service? We just went to the door and talked. We talked to the persons, showed them the literature that we had. And some people, especially out in the country, when I would go with Brother and Sister Brown, they were pioneers that lived at Aunt Maggie's house over there. They had their trailer, they parked it there, they lived there. I went out in service with them a lot, they went out in the country and offered the literature. And if they didn't have any money or anything, we would take vegetables or eggs or whatever they wanted to give us if they wanted the literature and didn't have any money. That's what the Browns, they would take, was they had to have a little money themselves. Have gas for the car, stuff like that, we didn't give literature away for free, no. I remember the first house I ever went to by myself. I had been by myself. I had been going with Ruth and Sister Dell. And Brother Kraut said, Ruth, how about you taking that house over there? And I was really petrified. I said, yes, all right, I'll go. So here, you take, this is what you're going to place. And I went, and I knocked on the door. It was a black lady that answered the door, and I started talking to her about the Bible and about what I had, and she took the book in her hand and she looked at it and said, oh yes, I would like to have this book. And she says to me, how much is it? And I told her, well, you can pay up to 25 cents, but whatever you want to pay, whatever you have that you want to give me will be all right, I told her. And she didn't have a 25 cents. She didn't have a quarter. She looked in her little purse there that she had, and she says, oh, look, I have a dime and I have a couple of pennies. Would that be all right? I says, oh, sure. So I placed a booklet with her.
So she gave you everything she had.
She did. That's all she had in her purse. She didn't have very much. But I told her, I told her if you only have a few pennies, it'd be all right with me. Because I would put, but you know, when I wouldn't get the full amount of money, I always, you know, would put the amount that she gave me in the contribution thing. Always did that. And of course, the book I've already paid for it. We had to pay for our literature before we got it. We had to pay for our literature. We did. Of course, a lot of people, you know, you can't just go out and give people something, and you know, we didn't do that. But I always would have enough money where I'd get a couple of books that I'd have for my service. But that was the first time I had ever been by myself. And I went back to the car, and I was so happy. I says, look, Brother Kraut, look what I placed the book. And she gave me some money. She wanted it. And I gave her the book. She wanted it. It's strange. I remember everything that lady said to me. She says, she looked through the book. She was happy. She said, oh, this is nice. She was happy. But one thing I remember when I went in there was the awfulest smell I ever smelled in my life. And I finally found out what it was. She was cooking hog intestine.
Yeah.
And they smelled terrible. But I managed to get I never will forget that though. I told Brother Kraut, I says, there was an awful smell in that house, but I found out what it was, and so I told him what it was. The lady was cooking hog, the intestines.
Chitterlings.
That's what she was cooking.
Chitlins.
She was going to use those intestines that had the hog, that had killed a hog. And she was going to grind up some stuff, and they're going to put in those intestines, and they're going to have them.
Pudding.
Make sausage or something out of it.
Sometimes it's called pudding too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what she was going to do with it. But it didn't smell good though.
So, Mom, you never used a phonograph or a testimony card?
I used a testimony card, but it was later. And the other thing was too heavy for me to carry. No, I never used that photograph. That was a heavy thing.
Yeah, imagine it was.
No.